Hello and welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Srinivas V. Padigar, former professor and chairman of Ancient Indian History and Epigraphy, Karnataka University, Dharwad. In this session, we are considering the cave architecture in Karnataka, which forms part of the paper on art and architecture of India. In this session and in some of the sessions which will follow, we will be considering certain modules which are of great consequence for understanding the art and architecture of India. Chalukyas of Badami, who ruled from 6th to 8th centuries over a large area of peninsular India, contributed a lot to the development of stone art and architecture. They have excavated cave temples and constructed structural temples. Both these are of significance not only for this particular region but also for the whole of India. Particularly, the structural temples constructed by the Chalukyas of Badami are significant because they represent various temple forms which were prevalent in different parts of India. As such, we will go into some details of these aspects in the subsequent sessions. Let us now begin with cave architecture in Karnataka. After going through this module, you should be able to have a background of the emergence of cave architecture in Karnataka. You will also be able to understand the nature of rock medium used for rock cut caves in Badami and Aihole under the Chalukyas of Badami. You will be able to identify the similarities and differences in plans and other architectural components of Chalukya cave monuments. Lastly, you will be able to know some details of cave monuments of Badami and Aihole, including sculptures associated with them. Let us now consider the background of emergence of cave architecture in Karnataka. The first instances of religious cave architecture in India are from Ashoka Maurya's time. They are found in Barabar and Nagarjuni hills of Bihar. They are dated to 3rd century BC. Later on, the Buddhists created hundreds of caves in the western part of Maharashtra from about 2nd century BCE to CE 6th century. The most famous early cave architectural specimens of Maharashtra are in Bhaja, Pitalkora, Ajanta, Kanheri, Karla and Nasik and such other sites. The Jainas have also excavated some early caves in the Udayagiri hills near Bhubaneswar in Odisha in the 1st century BCE. The first cave temples of Hindu sects belong to the Gupta period. They are found in Udayagiri near Vidisha in Madhya Pradesh and are dated to 4th century CE. Here are a couple of early examples of cave architecture. The first one represents the Maurya caves in the Barabar hills of Bihar dated to 3rd century BCE. The second one is from Bhaja, which is a Buddhist Chaityagraha located in Maharashtra. It is dated to 1st century BCE. Now we will consider the emergence of cave architecture in Karnataka. The first specimens of cave architecture in Karnataka emerged only in 6th century under the Chalukyas of Badami. Why this delay is an interesting question to ask. The answer lies in the following reasons: lack of suitable exposed rock hills at convenient locations, absence of strong support base for Buddhism in the region, aversion of Hindu or Brahmanical sects like Vaishnavism and Shaivism for use of rock for temples, then prevalence of a very strong brick, timber and mortar architectural tradition. Let us briefly consider the political background of the Chalukyas of Badami. The Chalukyas chose Badami in Bagalkot district of Karnataka, their capital, in 543 and turned the rock hill there into a strong fort. Soon after establishing their sovereignty, in 543, under Pulkeshi I, the Chalukyas began expanding their sphere of political authority. Under Kirtivarma I, Mangalesha, and Pulakeshi II, their authority spread over the land between the Narmada in the north to the Kaveri in the south. After a brief spell of 12 dark years, they were again masters of the Deccan until 757. They introduced, on a large scale, the use of stone for architecture, and they have excavated both cave temples and built structural temples. Let us consider the nature of the rock material that has been made use of by the Chalukya architects for excavating caves. Badami and its neighbourhood have huge red sandstone hills which are suitable at some locations for cave excavations. These locations account for the presence of cave temples of 6th to 8th century period corresponding to the Chalukya rule. The sandstone is a sedimentary rock with horizontally layered structure formed under water. The Badami sandstones belong to Proterozoic phase of Earth's history before any form of life appeared on Earth. These are dated to 542 billion years, are considered to be still older. This gives an idea of the way in which huge sandstone rocks stand up at Badami. Compared to the granite rocks used in Tamil Nadu by the Pallavas, the sandstones are softer to work on. It is easier to remove blocks of stone from a sandstone boulder for creating cave space inside. But it requires expertise on the part of architects to judge the strength of the rock and its compactness before creating a cave. Chalukya architects were considerably skilled in this judgment. Now turning to the Chalukya cave temples at Badami, let us now consider the Chalukya cave temples at Badami. We may note that the Chalukya cave temples are located both in Badami and Aihole. In Badami, sandstones are more compact and stronger in structure than at Aihole. There are 4 cave temples and a natural cave in Badami. The caves are numbered 1, 2, 3 and 4 from lower to upper level. The religious affiliations of these caves are: Cave 1 is a Saiva one, Cave 2 is Vaishnava, Cave 3 is also Vaishnava, and Cave 4 Jaina. There is a Buddhist natural cave located between caves 2 and 3. Only Cave 3, which is Vaishnava, is dated by inscription to 578. This picture gives you an idea as to how the 4 caves at Badami are organized on the rock hill. You can have a comparison of the sizes of the different caves. The cave 1 at Badami, which is a Saiva cave, consists of an open veranda, a square hall, a small sanctum, a small subsidiary cave at west end, and an L-shaped open courtyard in front. The sanctum is at a higher level and is reached by stairs. It contains a rock-cut Shivalinga. Veranda has a row of 4 pillars, interspacing being wider between central pair. At the foot of each pillar, head of a flattened lion emerges on front side. The pillars in the Cave 1 at Badami have bracket capitals articulated differently that project laterally. The front row of veranda pillars have projecting vyalas supporting the eave. This is how the first cave at Badami looks like. You can see the open L-shaped courtyard in front, as also the famous Nataraja figure on the exterior wall. Let us consider the sculptural program of Cave 1 at Badami. The veranda walls, veranda ceiling, Pillars of veranda and hall, beams, etc. are decorated with relief sculpture. Major high relief sculptures include images of 18 armed Nataraja and Saiva doorkeeper. These are found at the entrance. There is Harihara, Ardhanarishwara on the veranda walls. There is a Nagaraja figure flanked by Vidyadhara couple on the ceiling of the veranda. The decorative sculpture in Cave 1 at Badami includes the depiction of the narrative scene of marriage of Shiva and Parvati, loving couples on beam, figures of diminutive Ganas, images of deities like Ganesha, Narasimha, etc., and imaginary animals on upper parts of pillar faces, bands of geese and pearl festoons, etc. The smaller secondary cave has relief sculpture of Mahishasuramardini, Ganesha, and Kartikeya on its walls. Pedestal of the cave entrance and of each major sculpture on walls have a frieze of Ganas or dwarfs in various moods and actions. This is how the interior of Cave 1 at Badami looks like. You can have a look at the type of pillars which are found in this cave, as also the nature of the bracket decoration. Here are 3 relief sculptures found in this cave. The first one is that of a Shaiva Dwarapala, the second one that of Harihara flanked by Parvati and Lakshmi, the third one is Ardhanarishwara. Let us now consider the sculptural style, craftsmen and date of Badami Cave 1. The sculptural style in Cave 1 shows homogeneity. The figural sculpture has open eyes, plain halo, smiling face, well-built fleshy figures, domination of imaginary animal decorations on pillars, etc. Aichaswamy Kalkutti and Drona were among craftsmen who worked on this cave. The cave has been assigned to latter half of 6th century. You can see in the picture the signatures of 2 craftsmen associated with this cave, namely Aichaswamy Kalkutti and Drona. Let us now come to Badami Cave 2. This is a Vaishnava cave. It is located at a higher level than Cave 1 and is smaller in dimension. The plan components include a veranda, a hall, and a sanctum arranged on north-south axis similar to Cave 1. The pillar forms in this cave are square but slightly they differ in detail from Cave 1. These provide the interior view of the second cave at Badami. You can see the form of the pillars and the decorative details. Similarly, in the right slide, you have the details of the carvings on eave with Vyala brackets. The sculptural program in Cave 2 is also significant. On the doorframe of the sanctum, we find North Indian style shrine models. There are wavy bracket capitals called Taranga Potikas on pillars. There are narrative friezes depicting Samudra Mathana, churning of the ocean, and Krishna Charita or stories of Krishna on veranda beams. Low relief images of Vishnu, Brahma, Kartikeya, Lakulisha, Vidyadhara couple, etc. are found on pillar faces. Major reliefs of doorkeepers are at entrance. The Varaha and Vamana Trivikrama avatars of Vishnu are found on veranda walls. Each of these has a Gana frieze on the pedestal. The relief sculpture of Matsya Chakra or fish spoke wheel and swastika patterns are found on the ceiling. Here are some examples of major relief sculptures of Cave 2 at Badami. The first one represents a Dwarapala, the second one Bhuvaraha Avatara of Vishnu, The third one, Vamana Trivikrama Avatara of Vishnu. The first picture in this slide presents a frieze of Ganas found below the major relief in Cave 2. The second one is a depiction of Matsya Chakra found on the ceiling of the veranda of the cave. We need to compare the sculptures found in Cave 2 to those found in Elephanta Great Shiva Cave because there is some similarity between the two. We have on the left side the figure of the Dwarapala, who is two-armed, standing with closed eyes. He is introvert. He is not looking at the viewer. You can compare this figure with the one found in the Great Shiva Cave at Elephanta in the scene Ravana lifting Kailasa, where there are two Dwarapalas of similar kind. Coming to the question of style, craftsmen and date of Cave 2, we may note that the sculptural style of Cave 2 differs from that of Cave 1, and it is similar to the one noticed in early Ellora and Elephanta Shaiva caves. Particularly, Dwarapalas in meditative mood with heavy headgears, subdued facial features, etc. are noteworthy. Among craftsmen who worked on this cave were Vacha and Duttoja. Dating is controversial. Some place it in the latter half of the 6th century after Cave 1, while others prefer a date of early 7th century. You can see in the picture the signature of Vacha, who was obviously a craftsman. As already mentioned, there is a natural cave between Cave 2 and Cave 3 at Badami. The sculpture which you are seeing here is of Bodhisattva Padmapani, which is found in this natural cave. This is the only Buddhist cave noticed in Badami. But it is not a man-made cave, only a natural cave has been made use of for sculpting some sculptures related to Buddhists. We now consider Cave 3 at Badami. This cave is the largest cave in Badami, and it is the only epigraphically dated cave of the Chalukyas. From an inscription, we know that it was completed in 578. It was dedicated to God Mahavishnu. It was sponsored by Mangalesha, one of the kings of the Chalukya dynasty, who was the stepbrother of Kirtivarma I. This is the only Chalukya cave to have a structural enclosure around. Part of the Adhisthana or pedestal of this cave is structurally added. Sculpturally also, this is the richest of the Chalukya caves. The plan of the cave consists of veranda, hall and sanctum, which are arranged axially north-south. The central 4 pillars of the hall are removed to create more ritual space. There are varieties of pillars. The beams of veranda are covered with narrative friezes of Samudramanthara, Krishnacharita, etc. The front row of veranda pillars have bracket figures carved in situ. The doorframe of the sanctum has details in Dravida or South Indian manner. Let us consider the sculptural program of Cave 3. At the entrance and side walls, we have 8-armed Vishnu and Vamana Trivikrama. In the cornice, you will find a large figure of Garuda and traces of paintings. On the veranda walls, we have large images of Paravasudeva, Varaha incarnation of Vishnu, Harihara, and Narasimha incarnation of Vishnu. The bracket figures of divine and semi-divine couples are found on the veranda pillars. These represent Shiva Parvati, Kama Rati, Naga Nagini, etc. There are some bracket figures of Nayikas who are standing under trees in various moods. Friezes of Samudra Mathana and Krishna's exploits are seen on the beams. There are images of Dikpalas and other gods on the ceiling. In these pictures, you can see the general appearance of cave 3 from front, and you can gauge the dimension of this cave. In the other picture, you have a view of the veranda of the cave with its variety of pillars and the image of Paravasudeva. In the center, you have an enlarged picture of Paravasudeva, that is Vishnu seated on Ananta. These are some more huge reliefs found in cave 3. The first one is an 8-armed Vishnu called Ashtabhuja Swami. The central one is the depiction of Varaha incarnation of Vishnu. The last one is Narasimha incarnation of Vishnu. In these, we have some more views of the sculptures decorating the cave 3. The first one is the image of Vamana Trivikrama Avatara of Vishnu. The second one is Garuda found in the cornice of the cave. The third one is a frieze depicting Krishna Leela. Here are some pictures of the various bracket figures which have been carved in situ in this cave. The first one is the representation of Ardhanarishwara. The second one is a Naga Mithuna, the Naga couple. There are some more examples here, of which the first represents Kama and Rati, the second represents Shiva and Parvati, and the third represents a lone Nayika who is busy reading a letter. As mentioned earlier, there are some traces of paintings in cave 3. These are particularly noticed in the eave portion of the cave. The picture that you are seeing is a copy of a painting that is noticed in this cave. In this, a king is depicted seated on a lion throne, witnessing a dance performance. Let us come to the question of sculptural style and artists related to cave 3. Some of the sculptures in this cave are similar to those in cave 1, while some others are similar to those in cave 2. Some are in mixed style. A number of artists worked on this cave. Some of the names are Aju Achara Siddhi, Koli Manchi, Vasudeva, Singa Manchi, etc. Cave 3 shows advanced features over caves 1 and 2, both architecturally and in sculptural style. Here are the pictures of the signatures of some of the artists, namely Aju Achara Siddhi and Koli Manchi. Coming to cave 4 at Badami, we may note that it is a Jaina cave. This is the smallest cave at Badami. It is only partially finished. The cave consists of a small veranda, a vestibule as wide, and a small sanctum, all axially arranged north-south. It is dedicated to Tirthankara, probably Mahavira, who is in Sarman. This is the front view of cave 4. Coming to the sculptural program in this cave, we may note that the veranda walls have Bahubali in penance and Parshvanatha's Kamatopasarga episode. There are smaller Yaksha figures also seen. Most of the images in the vestibule were carved in the 11th century. The relief image in the sanctum presents a Tirthankara, probably Mahavira, who is delivering the first sermon. The cave may be contemporary to cave 3 or slightly later. A date of late 6th and early 7th century should be suitable. These are the sculptures which we find in cave 4 associated with the Jaina themes. The first one is Tirthankara in the sanctum. The second one is Parshvanatha. The third one is Bahubali in deep penance. Aihole also has some cave temples. We may consider these cave temples from the point of view of comparison with the caves at Badami and from the point of view of comparison of sculptural styles. There are two major cave temples in Aihole. There is also a partly rock cut and partly structural cave shrine. These cave temples are named Ravalaphadi and Meena Basadi. The Ravalaphadi cave is of Saiva dedication. The Meena Basadi is of Jaina dedication. A partly rock cut and partly structural shrine is found on Mount Meguti Hill. It is of Buddhist affiliation. None of these are dated by any inscription. Therefore, dating is based on stylistic comparisons. You can see in this picture the location of the three caves which we are going to study. Let us first consider the Ravalaphadi Saiva cave. This cave's facade is smaller with a pair of pillars. The facade flanks have large Shankha and Padmanidhis or treasures personified. These are seated within shrine models. There are also skirt-wearing Dwarapalas which are badly weathered. These are called Yavana Dwarapalas. The plan of the cave consists of small astyler hall or mandapa with two smaller lateral chambers, a vestibule and a sanctum with linga on square pedestal at the center. The ceiling of the hall as well as of other components of the Ravalaphadi cave are low when compared to those of Badami. The pillars are slim with subdued brackets. The use of pillars is restricted to separating components of plan. The reason may be the fear of structure of the rock which has fissures and low height. All available surface on interior has been used for carving images and decorative designs. This is the view of the Ravalaphadi Saiva cave. In the close-up shown here, you will see the Padmanidhi and Shankhanidhi flanking the facade of the cave. You can also notice the nature of the pillars in front. This picture shows two plans. The first one of cave 3 at Badami, the second one of the Ravalaphadi Saiva cave at Aihole. This is for comparison. You can notice that whereas the Badami cave 3 has axially arranged components one after the other, beginning with sanctum, hall, veranda, that of Aihole Ravalaphadi cave is different. Here there is a hall, there is a vestibule and a sanctum. Apart from that, the hall on either side has two chambers. The sculptural program in the Ravalaphadi cave is interesting. In the hall, you have the depiction of Ardhanarishwara, Saiva Dwarapalas, Harihara and Gangadhara Shiva. In the right side chamber, on the wall, there is a depiction of Nataraja with 10 arms, who is accompanied by Parvati, Ganesha, Skanda and dancing Saptamatrikas along with Bringi. In the vestibule also, some sculptures are found. These include those of Varaha Avatara of Vishnu and Durga Mahishamardini. On the pedestals of the chambers flanking the hall, we notice the depiction of Ganas. These Ganas are in various moods. The ceiling of the hall has a lotus within concentric squares carved with designs in low relief. The ceiling of the vestibule has sculptures of Vishnu riding Garuda and Indra riding elephant, both within a circular frame. There are traces of painting on the ceiling of Nataraja's chamber. This is the view of the hall of Ravalaphadi cave. You can see in this picture, apart from the hall, the side chamber which contains the image of 10 armed dancing Nataraja, as also the vestibule and the Shivalinga in the sanctum. You can also see the way in which the ceiling is decorated. On the right side, you have an image found in the hall of this cave temple depicting Ardhanarishwara. This gives the details of the 10 armed Nataraja. Here you will notice Nataraja flanked by Parvati, Kumara, and Ganesha, as also the figures of Saptamatrikas in dancing postures. These are some of the other major reliefs found in the Ravalaphadi cave. The first one is Gangadhara, the second one is Varaha lifting Bhudevi, the third one is Mahishasura Mardini. The latter two are found in the vestibule. Let us consider the aspects of sculptural style and date. The sculptural style of Ravalaphadi cave is homogeneous. It clearly differs from the style of Badami cave sculptures. Tall tiaras and longish faces, open eyes with delicate eyebrows, light smile, a pleated fan-shaped Shiras Chakra, wheel-like decoration behind the head are some of the characteristics. The dhoti is worn by each of the deity tightly up to the knees. It is marked by engraved lines conveying folds. We do not know who the craftsmen were carving out these sculptures. Normally, the cave is assigned to 6th century. We now come to the Jaina cave, which is called Meena Basadi. This cave is located on the west flank of the Meguti hill. It originally had an open facade, but now a dry stone masonry wall screens off the interior. It is larger than the Ravalaphadi Saiva cave. Its plan components are a veranda with front row of pillars, an austere hall with laterally excavated smaller chambers, and as in the case of Ravalaphadi, a sanctum at the rear, slightly smaller than hall. The ceiling of this cave is low, as in the case of Ravalaphadi cave. It is decorated with lotuses and other low relief designs both in veranda and hall. The pillars are slender with subdued brackets. The hall is devoid of pillars. Thus, there are notable similarities with Ravalaphadi cave. This is the view of the Ayhole Jaina cave. You see how the masonry wall has closed the facade of the cave. The sculptural program in this Jaina cave is as follows. On the veranda walls, we have the representations of Bahubali in penance and Parshvanatha's Kamatopasarga. In the lateral right chamber, we have a narrative of Parshvanatha's first sermon event, which is unfinished. The rear wall of the hall, flanking the sanctum entrance, has lotus holding Dwarapalas. In the sanctum, a seated Tirthankara is found, obviously delivering the sermon. The ceiling of the veranda has low relief floral and geometric patterns in rectangles. The ceiling of the hall has lotus with subsidiary lotuses at corners, within square, and decorative floral, etc. patterns. These pictures show you the decorated ceilings and the sculptured reliefs on the veranda walls. The first one is the decoration on the ceiling of the veranda. The second one represents Bahubali flanked by two Vidyadharis. Third one represents Parshvanatha. This is the detail of the hall, where you can see practically all surface decorated with sculpture. The second picture represents the Tirthankara in sermon found in the sanctum. So far as the name of the artist and the date of the Jaina cave is considered, we may have the following observations. A major craftsman associated with the Jaina cave seems to be Utuna. He has signed many times in the vicinity of this cave in 7th century Kannada characters. There are no direct clues to date this cave. The sculptural style is closer to the Saiva cave but appears to be later. The confidence to have a larger cave shrine suggests that this cave is later in date than the Saiva cave. Possibly a 7th century date should be suitable. In Aihole, we have only one Buddhist monument. This Buddhist shrine is half excavated into rock and half structurally built. It is located halfway up the Meguti hill on north side. It is a double-storied structure frontally. The lower story consists of an open veranda, which is structural, a rectangular hall, and 3 sancta, all arranged laterally in a line in the rear. The hall ceiling is not well dressed and is uneven. The sanctum image is missing, but it would have been the one now preserved in the Aihole Archaeological Museum. The hall door frame also depicts Buddhist themes in miniature. The upper story, which is structural, has an open veranda. The central part of the rear wall has a small excavated sanctum to contain a Buddha image. Pillars of veranda are square sectioned monoliths with simple roll brackets supporting beams. This is the view of the Buddhist structure found on the Meguti hill. You are seeing the front part of this structure, which is structural. Behind this, you have the excavated part. The sculptural program, craftsmen, and date associated with this cave may be observed as follows. The sculptural programming is found on beams, door frames of ground floor, and ceiling. The door frames of ground floor have miniature depictions of events from the Buddha's life and Jataka stories. The beams have pearl festoon designs, etc. On the ceilings, you will find lotus and relief of Buddha. The principal craftsmen working on this shrine were Binjadi Ovaja and Bina Amma. The date of the cave is uncertain, but it may be of the 7th century. These pictures present before you the view of the ceiling and beams in the veranda. The other picture presents the Buddha found in the upper veranda. These pictures are details of the door frame. They consist of depictions of narratives drawn from Buddha's life and Jataka stories. Let us now summarize the subject which we studied in this module. The tradition of rock cut temples was introduced in Karnataka by the Chalukyas of Badami in 6th century. The Chalukya cave temples at Badami and Aihole are cut into sedimentary rocks called red sandstone. At Badami, caves are of Saiva, Vaishnava, and Jaina sects, while at Aihole, Saiva, Jaina, and Buddhist. Aihole cave plans distinctly differ in having laterally cut chambers to halls and larger sancta. The ceilings are relatively high in Badami than in Aihole. They have less decorative schemes compared to Aihole. Pillars are of varieties. The scheme of decoration occupies walls, pillars, beams, and ceilings at Badami. But Aihole decorative scheme is focused on walls and ceilings. The styles of Badami cave sculptures differ from that of Aihole. Certain craftsmen who worked on caves are known. The only dated cave of the Chalukyas is Cave 3 at Badami, sponsored by Mangalesha in 578. In this module, we have briefly considered the cave temples in Karnataka. For details, you can refer to e-texts. You can also refer to the references given to various books relating to these topics. In the subsequent modules, we will consider the structural temples of the Chalukyas of Badami, which are of great consequence for understanding the developments of the structural temple architecture in Karnataka.